Well, Omni Bio was formed around the discovery of new uses of alpha-1 antitrypsin in the laboratory, and there is actually a plasma-derived product which is being sold around the world right now for a severe condition involving the lung, usually emphysema, sometimes COPD. That is how the whole molecule has been being used up to this point in time. It's a very expensive molecule based on the way it's manufactured and the way it's used. It's given intravenously. It takes a 2-hour infusion each time it's given. These patients have to go in once a week for these infusions for their entire life. So a pretty onerous situation.
One of the issues that have come up in the last 5 years is would giving more alpha-1 antitrypsin to people who do not have a deficiency make them do better in situations where they would have some inflammatory disease. And so that seems to be going in that direction right now, and I'm happy to tell you that there are clinical trials giving alpha-1 antitrypsin to people who do not have the deficiency but have inflammatory diseases.
And so as you do a study, we initially learn some information, and then hopefully with the next study we make improvements. So I think what we've learned so far with the drug has been encouraging, and hopefully the next study will give us much more information, a better understanding of the effect of the drug and potentially for how long that effect can be maintained.
What we learned from these early trials is the sooner you give the alpha-1 antitrypsin, the better the result. There's going to be some publications that will be remarkable, but based upon that, 2 other trials are going to start very soon, treating patients with graft versus host disease. This will be done in University of Michigan Cancer Center and the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center in Seattle, Washington, both top places for graft versus host disease. We've taken the viewpoint that the plasma product, although it's effective, is expensive, very expensive in fact, and has to be given intravenously in an infusion center. The patient has to go into a clinic or a medical facility, get an intravenous needle in, and it has to be infused directly into the vein. That costs extra money because the infusion centers are not free. So the drug is expensive, the infusion center procedure costs money, and it's an inconvenience for the patient. What we decided to do was to make a synthetic form of alpha-1 antitrypsin using a technique that really began about 20 years ago called recombinant DNA technology, in which you put the gene in a specific cell and the cell becomes a factory and it makes what you want it to make. So now we've taken the human gene and put it in this special cell line and created a form of alpha-1 antitrypsin that we can produce as much as we want.
Potentially a breakthrough therapy, I think. It could be very similar to what we did with Enbrel 12 or 15 years ago. It has a very unusual profile with a variety of potential uses that is very unique for a new drug coming into the market today. And again, it's very reminiscent of what we did with Enbrel, which also had a large number of potential uses.
Enbrel's a $1 billion drug for the treatment of psoriasis and rheumatoid arthritis. And we use the exact same construction, the same Fc. Instead of putting the Enbrel molecule, we put alpha-1 antitrypsin. And this construct is actually 2 molecules joined at the bottom by the antibody. So you get 2 molecules of alpha-1 antitrypsin for every Fc.
The alpha antitrypsin story is very similar to that, in that it also acts as a general anti-inflammatory in its effects. It has a number of other effects as well, and I'm not the scientist involved here, but it looks like it could affect conditions such as diabetes, either type 1 or type 2 diabetes, could help with the rejection of organs, so in organ transplantation, but also graft versus host disease, which is a very serious clinical condition following bone marrow transplants. It could be used in irritable bowel syndrome, could be used in myocardial infarction to ameliorate the effects of repeat heart attacks. And there are a number of things, even as an antibacterial and antiviral therapy. So there's a whole array of potential uses for alpha-1 antitrypsin. We're actively involved in discussions with the plasma manufacturers right now as I come into the company. We'll be pursuing those aggressively and hopefully creatively to come up with some deal terms that would be of advantage to Omni and its shareholders. So I think that's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing we're going to do, I think, is turn Omni into a drug development company. It's been doing a lot of science around the area of AAT and potential uses, in particular with this Fc fusion recombinant molecule. I think we're at the point now where we can move from the basic science level, which has been in motion for the past year or so, into an actual drug development mode. Pick a candidate to take forward and then move that candidate forward with a lot of attention and a lot of energy.